Good morning and welcome to Mrs. Bell's Sweet Treats and More. Today is Monday, so this is Monday Moments. Today we're going to make an apple bread. Last week we made a zucchini bread, we used a vegetable, and today we're going to use apples. I hope you like apple bread. If you've never had it, it's delicious. It has the apple inside and the apple bakes with the bread, and it makes this delicious chewy apple treat. So we're going to begin. The first thing I did was to put my oven on 350 because that's where we're going to be baking today. And I got a regular loaf pan that I sprayed with the Pam or any of the sprays that you can use in your pan to keep the bread from sticking so it comes out. My pan is pretty good, so the bread usually does come out, but sometimes stuff happens. So we're going to start. The first thing is I make the crumb topping. It consists of brown sugar, white sugar, and flour. And there's butter as well, which goes in. So right now, the butter must be melted. Not soft, actually melted. So I'm going to combine the sugar and the flour. And this is where you're going to use your hands for this. Some people don't like using the hand. That's okay. If you have a fork, you can use a fork. I use my hands because I want butter in every piece. I want sugar in every piece. I don't want clumps of flour or clumps of sugar. So that's pretty good. So now I'm going to add the butter. I'm going to make sure that it's incorporated because it's it's melted. And now I'm going to just add it in here. And it's going in, and it didn't look like my regular crumb topping, so when I made this before, I had to really pay attention because it just didn't look like the crumbly top. For those who make the crumble top for pies or cobbler, it looks like just a crumbly top, but this one is different. You mix everything together, and it looks kind of like a mess up, which I thought it was, but it's not. It's the way this one works. So you incorporate all of that. Make sure you have no flour hanging out somewhere, okay? And then you set this aside, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut our apples. I had a couple different apples. It depends on your preference for apples. I like Gala, and then I like sweet and sour. It depends on the apples I have in the fridge. So don't go out and buy apples if you got a couple apples. So what I usually do is I cut it in half, my apple in half, and then I just this is one way that I do it. When my girls were little, I cut that core out. And then I'll show you another way that I've done it. And you can peel the apple this way, and another way that I do it, I'll show you. And I save my apple skins, mix them with cinnamon and orange rind or lemon rind, and put them on the stove for a little bit, and some vanilla, and it makes a great aroma for the house. It smells like you're cooking something and you ain't doing nothing but boiling rind. Now, apples are a fruit that will turn brown on you. So I have a bowl here, and I'm going to cut my apples. And just cut them. They don't have to be giant chunks, and they don't have to be tiny, but they can just be a regular size cut. Another way that I've done my apples is I peel them first before I do any cutting. It reminds me of peeling potatoes, except with the skins here, you can enjoy it. You can eat the skins. And then I just take my apple and I just cut around the core to make like apple slices. I used to do that when my girls were little. And then I just cut those. And yet they don't have to be perfect unless that's what you want, but the apples are going to bake. Now I have lemon juice, which I squeezed from a lemon, because I want to pour it on over these apple pieces because I don't want them turning brown. Doesn't change the flavor, but it does change the look. So I'll keep going with this, and I'll be back with you in just a moment. Now for the actual bread, it's a couple, 2.5, about a little, maybe a little bit more, but 2.5 cups of, I use unbleached all-purpose flour. I use a teaspoon of kosher salt, and it has a couple teaspoons of cinnamon, and it has baking powder. The recipe will be on the bottom so you can follow along. I have in my bowl 2.5 cups of the all-purpose flour and the baking powder and salt that I put in earlier. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon to this. And then you can kind of see the flour changing on you, the color, as it the cinnamon incorporates in there. So I stir that and try to get it mixed up all on the bottom. And put my cups aside. Now I have my eggs, and again in this recipe everything should be room temperature. I have my eggs, and I'm going to whisk them with some sugar. It's 3/4 cup of white sugar. So I'm going to whisk my eggs first. And then I'm going to add my sugar. It's 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And I'm going to whisk that together. When sugar and eggs are together with the egg yolk, it makes such a beautiful color. Now, I also have my butter, which is melted, and it looks a lot like the egg and sugar mixture. And I'm going to pour that in. Now I'm going to whisk this together. Excuse me. I'm going to, just a moment. whisking this together because I want the butter incorporated with the sugar and the egg. I'm going to put it in a larger bowl. So you can see how it's going. Now I have a cup of milk. I use A2. You can use 2% whole milk. And you add the milk and about 1 3/4 teaspoonful or just a little less than 2 teaspoonfuls of vanilla. So I'm going to put the vanilla in. And then I'm going to add the milk. The milk is room temperature so that everything should flow together. And so I'm pouring in my milk, vanilla, egg, and sugar. I'm doing it slowly so that I don't have milk all over my counter. And to make sure that it gets incorporated really well. As you can see, it's very wet. The vanilla, when vanilla and butter are together, it's just a great smell. So I'm adding the milk slowly. Okay, that's the last of the milk. So this is how it looks, very wet. And at this point, we're going to put in our apples. So this is the apples and the mixture. Now I'm going to take this, make sure it's well combined because I've got to mix it into the flour. And see that. Uh-oh. You want about a cup of apples. I like a little bit more, but you certainly can stick with, you know, a couple small apples. The batter is going to be very thick, but you really want to make sure that it's everything's incorporated in it really well. Just a second. Make sure you got it from the bottom. Okay, and then I bring over my pan. Make sure my bottom is done. The cinnamon smells so good. we have our apples in here. Now, we take that topping we had. Remember I told you it looks like it doesn't work. It works. We take it and we just break it off in pieces and put it over the top of our bread. Don't let it try to all be clumpy. You want to separate those clumps, and it kind of looks like walnuts, I guess. It looks like pieces of walnut, that meat in the nut. And you keep going until you cover the whole thing, the whole top, because you want to crunch in every bite. Apples are a wonderful fruit. They're full of fiber and pectin. They're good for us. So there was an old adage, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But I don't know about an apple a day doing that. But I know that definitely you're going to get about 5 grams of fiber in a medium-sized to large apple. So it's very good for you, for those who make apple desserts, or just like a slice of apple, or you may want to put some peanut butter on it, or some other kind of like cream cheese or something. So that's the end of this. So I want you to take a look at it, because I'm about to put it in the oven. This is what it looks like. And all those pieces are going to be crunchy, buttery, delicious. The oven is 350. So we're going to let that cook, and it's going to smell up the house wonderfully. It's going to cook about an hour. Check it after about 40 minutes or so. See where it is, and we'll be back. So we have in the oven the apple bread cooking, and we're going to work on the glaze. That way it'll be ready when it comes out the oven. Now you can eat the bread without the glaze. It's up to you, but I think it adds a little extra something to it. So I have here a little bit more than a cup of confectioners sugar, and I'm going to just whisk in enough milk to get a little bit to incorporate it. So I'm just going to pour. Confectioner's sugar has cornstarch in it, and it makes wonderful frostings, but once it's too wet, you have to add more sugar. So I go really slow. This is a little bit over a tablespoon of milk. And then I add, and you can see it's kind of coming together. I add just a pinch of vanilla. A pinch means not a lot, because we don't have a lot going on here. And you can perfectly leave the vanilla out, it's fine. And then I'm going to add some maple syrup. This is a wonderful addition. And we're not making a lot of topping. You could double this, I guess, if you wanted more. And you can see it's kind of changing color. So that's it for our topping, and we will be back with our bread shortly. Well, here's our apple bread, and see the crunchy top, and it smells so good. It smells like fresh apple pie. Once the cake cools, the frosting we made, you just drizzle it on top. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit of a drizzle. And the maple is just perfect for this, for the apple, with the tart and the sweet. So that is my apple bread. I hope you enjoy it. And there you are. Please leave a comment. Let me know if you tried it, if you had a variation, had any changes. You could probably add nuts and raisins, but leave a comment. Let me know how you like it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.